I had a telephone somewhere that I should probably check. There's on shut up noise. There we go. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to a brand new video. Today's video is going to be everything to talk about brand values, branding and content creation and how they all merge together. Because I've had a lot of questions and recently I've done some content and I've actually created some content. I've had many conversations with some branding photographers and I've been working with some branding photographers lately, and I wanted to articulate that knowledge onto you watching this video and how some of those things and some of those things which I talk about when I work with a client on branding as well, and also how those values and how those that brand actually is articulated when it comes to their content creation and some of the things that is to be expected when you're working with someone with your branding. So that's a brand photographer or brand videographer. So something that I've noticed as we are moving into 2021 is a lot of people now in the industry and in the marketing world specifically, there's been a lot of talk around the fact that digital content creation is going to become an absolute necessity in 2021 because it's no longer a luxury, because everyone who you want to talk to or your customer base, your client base is specifically going to be on the LinkedIns, the Instagrams, the Facebooks, the TikToks, the specific, those platforms, those social media platforms. So you as a brand owner and a business owner should be creating content that is with your values as a brand and as a business. Now, I'm going to talk about a little bit about values in a moment, about how they are and how you can sort of work them out if you don't know, but this is going to be mainly for people who are very early or at least starting to think about branding more seriously when it comes to how to then articulate that to your ideal consumer and your ideal customer. So something which I found very, very early on and something that I work with when I work with a new client is I want to understand their business. I want to understand their brand. I want to understand what their values are specifically. So a lot of business owners, when you start out, it's just you. So a lot of business owners will tell you that a lot of their brand values or business values are very similar to their own personal values. So you need to ask yourself, if you're thinking of like creating these values and understanding these values, is what's important to you as a human being as well. Because I think for me it's important to understand the differences but also the similarities, because it will make you be able to come across a lot better when it comes from a more personal branding perspective as well, when you're coming across on camera, for example, and it allows people to really get to know you. And I've done other videos talking about why people getting to know you is a really good idea, and putting a face to your business is a great thing for your bottom line and something that you should do moving into 2021. Let's just talk Brunton Media for a couple of minutes so I can use it as a very key example of what brand values are and what my brand values are. Now, this doesn't have to necessarily be the list of all of them or the full-on list, but it's just more to give you an idea. So some of the things you can think about when you're specifically choosing some of the locations perhaps that you create content, or some of the things you may talk about, or how you go about talking to clients or coming across on video. For example, one of my brand values is to be kind, and that kind of affiliates to another one, which is that it's not necessarily about me specifically growing and becoming bigger and becoming better. It's also you can help others grow with you and come up with you, and you can share your success and your knowledge, and you can teach, and you can really, really help educate people. And that's why I'm doing this series, for example, is help educate people on the things you're learning and the things you're being able to develop yourself to create a better and stronger business as well. So when you understand your values, so for example, mine, as I said, was being kind and helping others is specifically the main core understandings. This is whenever you get a new job or your new project request or a new client is coming to you and having a conversation with you, you need to ask yourself, is this in line with my values, or is this going to, is this something I want to do and this is something I'm passionate about doing? And there's no necessarily the answer there, but what you'll find is if you're not overall going to be, and I had a situation very, very similar to this very, very recently, where, for example, if you don't truly care as much as you may feel to at the start of a conversation in a project when the hours are building up and, you know, specifically it's becoming quite of a pain in the ass project, to put it blunt, then sometimes mistakes are going to happen and you're going to rush it. And if you care, you'll you'll recheck it, you'll make sure that it's good, you'll, you know, do that QA check. But, you know, in a situation where, for example, it's a project that doesn't really fire you up, doesn't really fire you up with passion, it's maybe something where you then miss things or mistakes are made, and then that's going to unfortunately mean that the product is not going to be as good, or the service is not going to be as good as you originally suggested or originally implied with that piece of content or with that service that you offer as a business owner. So this is why understanding your brand values and understanding what projects you should and maybe shouldn't take on, or maybe projects that you're best suited to, or, you know, products or services. This is mainly if you're in a project-based work, so if you're creative, but the same could be true if you're, you know, serving a specific product or showcasing a specific product. Do you believe in that product? Can you articulate to your customer that how it is valuable to them? If you're a consultant, how is you as a consultant going to be better than someone else who says they're a consultant as well? What information can you share with your potential client or your friend or your customer or your audience to allow them to see you as the authoritative figure in that field? So in my case, marketing or video marketing or etc. Why are you going to come to me over going to someone else who offers the same thing? It's always going to be that backwards and forwards between, do you necessarily think, because it's very easy to say to a lot of people, and it's very easy to say, oh yes, I know all these things, but if you're consistently proving by articulating, creating video content like this, or just writing blogs or creating content, and this leans into the content conversation that we're going to come on to in a moment, is going to be, it allows you to build up that reputation as someone who clearly knows what they're talking about, because you've just spent multiple hours or multiple days or multiple weeks creating a piece of content that are, you know, minutes and minutes and minutes, and adds up to hours and hours and hours of content talking about clearly what you know, else you wouldn't be able to talk about that, and it wouldn't become valuable, and the market's going to tell you whether it's valuable, and the people who watch it and the people who consume it and the content and the conversations that you have with your clients and your potential customers and your new clients and your new potential customers are going to tell you, because if they hire you, if they're paying you money for your service, whatever that is, so whether it's you offer a podcast, you offer a consultant, you offer video production, it doesn't matter, because if a client sees value in what you provide, they'll pay it. They see that value in it. It doesn't actually, if they're willing to pay you for it, then it's clear that they trust you for you to know enough about it and to know and to provide a good enough quality product for them to spend their money, their hard-earned money, on whatever it is that they're asking you to do. So in my case, someone might be asking me to create a video. It's clear by me creating videos like this and by me creating some of the other content I create that I know how to create a video, and I kind of show you what the videos you can expect, and you know, through this content or through some of my more promotional based content, you can see the kind of content which you're expecting to get if you were to hire me to do a job for you. And something else which is really, really important for me is to understand and care, you know, and be really passionate about the things and the, leaning back onto that. And I'm really, really passionate about promoting Salisbury, and I love Salisbury as a city. It's the place I grew up. I have a lot of time for people of Salisbury. I built my business here, so there's a lot of love there. So whenever I try and do some branded stuff, I want to make clear that I'm from Salisbury and I care about Salisbury, and I try to promote Salisbury in the best light, however possible. So recently I had a shoot that I was doing, and I was getting some more promotional photos taken from Suzy. I'll link Suzy in the description down below if you're interested, but this is a key example of how to utilize your brand values and how to use your brand values to make sure that your imagery and everything that you're putting out is going to still align every time with your brand values, and understand what branding is specifically, because branding is basically just going to be the time or the things that people say, and this is kind of very similar to reputation because they go hand in hand, is going to be what do people say about your business, product or service when you're not in the room. Is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? If, for example, all of your work isn't necessarily very good and you quote unquote rip off people, that will imply maybe not a good thing. So maybe people won't recommend you to their friends, to their customers, to people they care about. But if you do a really, really good job, a really, really great job, and you're providing a very, very valuable service, and in comparison to, say, for example, what someone would pay, so even if you are charging thousands and thousands of pounds, if you're over delivering every time on the amount of value that you can give your client and you give your customer, they're then more likely to be in a position to recommend you to someone who they know or a friend of theirs, or they'll bring you up in conversation and they'll speak well of you, which is, at the end of the day, one of the best things to do. And that's how most businesses get their continued revenue, but also how they bring in new business through word of mouth. And that all is what marketing does. Marketing allows you to articulate your message to more people, which then allows you to be up in conversation. Oh, did you see a piece of content that Colton just made because it talks about this? Maybe you would find this useful. It was just the other day, a friend of mine messaged me on Facebook saying, oh, I would love to start a podcast. I would love if you could come on, firstly, but also secondly, how the hell do I go about creating a podcast? So I specifically just linked him the video to show him an easy way to consume and a video which I've put a lot of time and energy in to actually creating and trying to explain how I create my podcast. Now, I could have, if I felt it was going to be more beneficial to him at that time, specifically create a longer message or a message explaining it, but the amount of depth that I would have gone into in that message would have probably been less than what I could have done in that video. So what I've done is I've created a piece of content that I can then reuse and repurpose and utilize as a skill tool, so I don't have to then spend the time re-explaining something that I don't necessarily need to explain. And this is one of those things, and as long as it's in line and it still connects with the theme of this video, which is brand value specifically, or branding, as long as it is online with your branding and is on par with your branding and is makes sense with your branding, so you're not saying one thing and then showing something else. Like, for example, if you're not trying to be really professional or specifically quite professional, but then you're going to send gifts and you're sending cats and things like that, things that don't necessarily connect, it will be sometimes jarring. But also what you do by creating those pieces of content is you establish a form of reputation, you establish a form of trust, you establish a form of you are the expert, because as I was saying earlier, you have that massive archive of videos, you have that massive archive of things that shows that you are. So if there's two businesses, for example, one is specifically not really producing content, not really talking about what they do, not really articulating, not really trying to teach their audience, potential customers, what they do, and not reminding them that they exist, or there is one that's doing the exact opposite. Personally, I know which one I would go to, but I think it's more likely, I think you'll find it's more likely that the one that's articulating their message more and talking about them more, you're more likely to have a chance to find them, and more people are likely to find them by stumbling upon a piece of content, or eventually, oh, it's that person again. Oh, you've seen another one of my videos, for example. Oh, it's another one of Colton's videos. Okay, well, maybe when I need it's constantly fresh in your mind as the go-to person for video, because you keep seeing some of my videos and you keep seeing me talk about why video is good. You keep seeing me bring up different topics about why content is valuable. You keep seeing me specifically bring some of my brand understanding, my brand values, and my brand knowledge to your Facebook feed, to your Instagram feed, to your Twitter feed, to your YouTube channel feed, etc. Not channel specifically, but to you watching this video on YouTube. So through all of these things, and I was having a conversation with a client today that goes into what is marketing specifically, and marketing is not this golden chalice of you're suddenly going to do X, Y, and Z thing and then you're going to make more money. What marketing allows you to do is explore how that works for your business, because every single business and every single audience and every single customer base is going to be very different in regards to how you go about obtaining those clients, how you go about actually adding enough value at the front end for your customers, for your clients, to allow you to then be in a position where you can have a conversation with them about how you may be able to help them in more depth. Because I specifically may be able to sit here and talk to you about all of the things that I do and all of the strategies and all of the plans I have in my own head about how I utilize video and why I utilize video. But that doesn't necessarily correlate and necessarily understand that people will want to hear it from you with their own context around it. So they'll want to know, how does this work for my business, Colin? How can this work for my customer base, Colin? I understand the concept of why I should be doing it because I've consumed some of your content, but what I don't understand is how can it work for me and my client base. So this is something that content and brand, and the reason why I keep coming back to brand is because brand is the thing that allows you to do that. It allows you to build up that reputation. It allows you to understand, and doing a brand exercise, something which I try to do with my clients, is a clarity call or a brand exploration call, which allows them to really truly understand what their business is. What are those values that they have? Do they have a specific color palette? Why did they specifically choose that color palette if there was a reason? How can you keep those consistent themes through any content that we may do or they may do? And how can you allow to, even from messaging, how do we come across? What kind of content are we creating? How does it help? What wording are we using? Are we using the terms in, for example, if I'm working with an NLP specialist or a therapist, are we using some very technical terms, or am I specifically going to use say the same thing, but I'm going to say it in a very simple way so it's easier for someone who doesn't have the large amount of knowledge in NLP actually understand what specifically I'm talking about. So a lot of the time when I work with clients, it's about taking their extensive knowledge on a topic and in some ways turning it very simply into what are the key elements here, and then how can we articulate that to your ideal customer, ideal client, ideal person who you want to have a conversation with about what you do. Because at the end of the day, every business owner, whether you are a service provider or a product seller, that is why you want to do it. You love talking about what you do, right? So why wouldn't you try to change some of the wording and how you do that so it connects with your brand, goes back to your brand again, but also can connect better with your customer or clients to allow you to then potentially make more sales, make more revenue, which is what, at the end of the day, if you're in business, that's what you want. That's what every business owner is really looking to do and looking to have specifically happen. So I hope you did take some value from this video. I went a little bit off script and a little bit off tangent, a little bit, but I think it was still valuable because I wanted to explore the concept of how branding and specifically content creation can really help you really showcase what you do. And some of the, the work I've been doing lately, I think has allowed me to do that and allowed me to articulate to you why you having a content creator in your corner is a great plan and how I may be able to help you. So if you would like me to have a clarity call with you, or even just have a conversation about what that maybe look like, then feel free to reach out to my Instagram. It's linked in the description down below. It'll be the first link down there. So thank you so much for joining me once again. If you did enjoy this video, I'd love to hear what you think in the comment section down below while you're down there as well. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you very, very soon.